Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Higher Thinking. I'm Darren Jaffrey, Higher View's General Manager for EMEA. Joining me today is a senior talent leader with extensive experience in designing and implementing recruitment processes, specifically in the retail space. I'm going to talk to him about the importance of DE&I and ESG within talent and how to create messaging that brings your roles to life. Let's go and meet him. Andrew.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to New York. Welcome home, actually, to your home city, I believe.
Yeah, agreed.
Good to be back.
I'm genuinely happy to be back.
We're delighted to have you. Thank you. So I always like to start with just a few rapid-fire questions to get you settled in before we talk about your career. Morning coffee or afternoon happy hour?
Happy hour. I'm not a coffee drinker, so
That makes that one easy. Work from home or work from the office?
that's hard. It's a combination for me. I think a good hybrid.
Yep.
Right now, we do 2 days a week in the office and then the rest at home, and it works really, really well.
Hire for experience or hire for potential?
That's a tricky one because it's position based. You know, if you're looking for a job that's kind of more technical, you probably want the experience and the educational savvy to do said role. But you know, most of the roles in the company, you know, typically add to the culture, and in that case, then you hire the person.
Yeah, and it's the potential that you look for, right? Attitude or education?
It's if you had a gun to my head, I would say one of my mottos is hire character, train skill. So you'd hire the person with the potential and the right character culture match, and then you train the rest.
Very good. And best in class benefits or unmatched company culture?
These days, it's both. So you know, folks who are looking for roles are they have very high expectations. You know, even coming straight out of college, you expect the best. The benefits additional to the best compensation package, on top of the fact that they also want a company that cares about the things they care about and are passionate about their things and their ideals. So it's all of the
above. It's hybrid. We're going to drill into that as we go through your career, I'm sure. And actually, we talked about a little bit about the culture at Backcountry, and we'll go into that. So let's go back to the start. How did you get into the field of talent acquisition, and talk us through some of the roles you've held?
Completely by accident. So I worked for Abercrombie & Fitch. It's a retail company for most of my career. I was there for a little over 16 years, and I started off in just retail operations, working in a store while I was still in university, and kind of after got a job as a manager, and really not intentional. I just liked the job. I liked the company, and
this is when, back in?
I started with them in 2001.
Okay.
And so I just liked what I did, and apparently they liked what I was doing, so I got promoted a couple of times and decided to stick with it. So I rose kind of through the ranks there, got into multi-unit management, where I managed a bunch of stores, and then transitioned to HR, primarily because the company was expanding so heavily, and I had a knack for hiring.
So was it a conscious decision? Did you put your hand up for a role in HR, or were you approached based on what they'd observed of you in the workplace?
Yeah, ANF, I think, did a really nice job of promoting from within and recognizing talent. And so I had worked in my career in stores, I worked in a lot of different retail locations, and one of the things that I did, especially after taking over a store that might have been struggling, was I started with talent first. Okay. Talent/customer service kind of went hand in hand. And so over the course of kind of revamping multiple stores, they kind of recognized, oh, you're good at this, so you should do this more. And at that point, I was just doing what I thought was natural to me, and didn't kind of think about it formally until I started getting into the role itself.
So after Abercrombie was then to Backcountry?
No, so I had a couple stops before then.
Okay.
After Abercrombie, I went and worked for a brand called Rue 21, which is yet another retail store. Little bit of a different story there. So when I started at Rue, they had just kind of come out of a bankruptcy stage.
Okay.
So they had closed pretty much like half their fleet of stores, around 600 locations. And so the challenge there wasn't so much of expansion, it was more right sizing. So we had a corporate environment that needed to be restructured in order to meet the needs of the current kind of fleet of stores, which meant a lot of rebranding, a lot of kind of executive placements to make sure that we were able to
Put the business
thrive
back
successfully.
together. I mean, that's wildly different from the Abercrombie, let's go and expand our way across Europe, to actually let's maintain a business and keep it in good health, right?
Yeah. So that was a different challenge for me. So working at Abercrombie for so long, one of the things I wanted to do with my personal brand and career was to explore talent from all different angles, and so this presented a different opportunity for me to kind of
and you're going to get more from that than doing more of the same, right? And are you there also aren't going to be that many more let's go and open and take a brand across Europe type roles bigger than A&F at that point in time, right?
At that point, it was a huge deal.
I bet. So from there, I think it was Harbour Freight was next. Yep. And what was the role there?
So I was head of talent for Harbour Freight as well, and Harbour Freight was a little bit of a mixture of what I did at A&F and Rue 21. Harbour Freight is a huge company. They are still undergoing a huge expansion. We're opening around 130 to 140 locations a year. And it's a tool company, so they're monster, very large scale locations. So figuring out how to do that while growing and building the executive structure to support that expansion was my challenge there.
Okay. And that then brings us all the way up to date to Backcountry,
yes.
And you're currently there, obviously. How would you describe TA within the retail industry right now? I mean, we've just come out of a really interesting time. We try not to talk too much about it on this series, but it's inevitable, right? We're all on the other side of it. The world has changed a little. What are some of the biggest challenges or trends that you're seeing right now, specifically in retail?
So, in retail, in regards to talent, we have to be very intentional. Now, it used to be very much about the science of making sure that you had your processes and systems locked and dialed in, and as long as you figured that out and you had the right formula, it worked. Whereas now it has become more of a mixture of art and science. And
that's a great word, intentional. What do you mean by intentional there? It's that blend of art and science, right? So, but how does that represent itself?
Because there are so many variables, in the industry right now. So, the interesting thing that COVID did is that it gave people some time off to think, and so we saw a lot of people changing industries. And going back to school and studying things that were completely unrelatable to the job that they had either been laid off from or left. And so when they got back into the industry or got back on the job market, the landscape of talent had changed dramatically. And as then you add the element of the younger generation who care about different things. You have to also take into account, and I said this earlier, you have to take into account their passions. You have to take into current events. We are living in a time where a lot of shifting foundational rules that we thought were in place are changing, and so we have to take into account what matters to people as well as the general kind of talent rules.
So just to pick up on that, you talk about the time that people had off. They had time to think. Do you think the profile of individual that you're hiring at a store level, for example, is different after COVID than it was pre-COVID in terms of just what you're looking for from your staff?
It very much
Your
is.
team members, sorry,
Yeah.
that would be a better way of saying.
Yeah, no, it very much is, because the expectations of the customer is different. And we have to obviously meet the customer where they are. For a brand or a business to stay, around, we have to shift with the.
So let's drill into that. What's the different customer expectations that you see in the more relevant 2022 world?
They customers expect more of businesses and brands to kind of speak to their own identities. They want to see themselves reflected. Whether you're working or shopping at a brand, you want to see some version of yourself reflected in where you spend your money and your time.
I think that's absolutely right. And we're gonna drill into that a little bit. So just obviously, it's interesting for me, given I work for a technology company. How can technology address some of the challenges and that you just described for the benefit of both the candidate and the recruiter?
So technology offers efficiency, and time is money, and the expectation of the candidate today is that they want an answer, and they want it fast, and they want it now.
Yep.
The deliverable from a talent acquisition or a recruiter standpoint is that you cannot do that or get to that answer as quickly while sacrificing quality. And so the candidate has high expectations, but so does the hiring manager. And so technology offers a wonderful opportunity to keep a high standard, build a system and a process that is tried, true, tested, that is very much tied into your core values and the culture of the company and the brand, and going through candidates at a high volume to hopefully present a quality result.
How are you measuring that you're meeting candidate expectations sort of throughout that whole journey? Is it a formalized process? Is it something that you report back to the business? How do you share that?
Yeah, so that again is part of the art and science I talked about earlier, is that you have to figure out a quantifiable way to measure culture.
Yep.
And
which is quite hard to do.
It's very hard to do. And so recognizing whether someone would be the right fit for the culture obviously is very much dependent on the brand and the culture that you exist in. But if you can figure that out by asking a series of behavioral based questions and at least predict answers, you can score that.
Okay.
And tie it back to what ideally the ideal candidate would answer if they were to be asked that question.
And are you doing that across all roles, so sort of store level up to a certain sort of job class within the family or job category, or just across the board, because culture is all consuming and all important at Backcountry? Culture
starts from the top, and it is almost, it's like secular. So the entry level associate has to exude the same amount of passion for the culture, or for our culture as you do at the executive level, because ultimately the entry level associate are the ones who are engaging with the customer.
Sure.
So they're the ones who are passing on that passion, and are representative of the brand.
What are the assessment attributes that you're measuring in terms of when you're taking your candidates through the process? Are you looking for, I guess it's probably a combination of everything, but is it people skills? Is it cognition? Where do they all sit in the Backcountry world?
So you can't be jack of all trades, because then you become master of none.
Yep.
So ideally within the culture, you have to define some of the leading behaviors that you'd expect or want to portray. But then within those behaviors, some are probably more analytical and on a higher level tied to higher level roles. Some are, very much social and people focused, tied to kind of the overarching, associate that interact with our customers. And so figuring out what the leading behavior for the right level is, and then measuring kind of, and putting measurements around that is kind of the easiest way to go about at least the entry level first screen.
Okay. So for different positions, you can dial up the EQ and the IQ.
Correct.
Based on the position itself.
Correct.
Basically. That's cool. Good to see. So obviously, the best talent out there at the market at the moment is in high demand,
They always
and
are.
will almost certainly, if they're speaking to you, be speaking to other companies as well. That is the way of the world now. Historically. We didn't live in a world where we had a guest on yesterday who talked a lot about renege rates, right? As something that they now measure that they never used to worry about. That concept that when you were extended an offer, it was almost certain that you were going to turn up on day one. That world has changed a little bit,
Very
right?
much so.
And so they take a great interest in their renege rates. How can organisations move quickly to kind of assess and hire great candidates, but also keep them engaged the whole way through the process? What are you doing in that world?
It's a holistic process, and it starts from employment branding. You ideally need to attract and ultimately repel the right talent that is right for your brand or your organization. And with high interest comes a little bit more patience, but not that much. So, to your point, when you nowadays present an offer, you probably presenting that offer with the assumption they're speaking to other companies and have other offers to consider. So there's less negotiation, and it's more so putting your best foot forward. But I think if we remain true to ourselves, true to the culture, tie the ideal candidate to the ideal roles that they're truly interested in. There's a little bit of wiggle room for grace period of time.
I get it. It's a really interesting phrase I haven't heard before, but it makes a lot of sense that you both want to attract and repel the right candidate. We always talk about talent attraction. Actually, let's just make sure that we bring the right people into the conversation that are going to be appropriate for our culture at the end of that conversation, right? Not just attracting everybody. And repel's, a strong word, but I totally understand it, and it makes a lot of sense, right? Certainly, you'd see a positive trend in renege rates if you were getting the right talent or having the conversation with the right talent at the beginning of the dialogue. So the current role you've got brings, quite uniquely actually, I think, in people that I've spoken to, brings together the world of talent, DE&I, which we talk about quite a lot on Higher Thinking, rightly so, it's an important topic, but also ESG. And so you've got sort of two of the hottest topics in talent acquisition right now, two of the most important. Historically, organisations tend to keep those separate.
They do.
Maybe talent and DE&I, there's some over there, sometimes, but to have all three, it is fairly unique. So what's your view on that, and what's the advantage of bringing them together? Why should other people do it?
I think Backcountry took this approach, in early days. I think we're one of the few companies who have kind of recognized the link, and that they're not as separate as a lot of companies think they are. Today, talent and folks who are out on the job market, all the things that matter to them are all being considered in their singular decision of whether or not they want to work for the company. And so, people take into account and care about, how you show up from a human rights and sustainability perspective, as well as, what your efforts are from a DEI, from all your DEI initiatives. And so if you take into account maybe the top 3 things that people think through, it's comp, location, and sustainability, DEI efforts. And sometimes comp isn't the number one consideration where it used to be.
Yep.
And so tying all these things together makes, I think, great sense, because it should be a unified strategy as you think about employment branding, attracting the right talent, and making sure that you have a true world-class benefits package that actually, is meaningful to the right person.
I think it makes a lot of sense, as you just described it. But not a lot of companies do tie it
Not
together,
yet,
right?
not yet.
You
think
feel
it'll
like
be a trend.
it's the future.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you would expect that Backcountry would, given the nature of the business and the industry that you're in. I mean, yes, you're a retailer, but specifically the audience or community to which you serve and sell, right? It's very appropriate, and I get it. other organisations need to kind of maybe follow that through and see where they get to on that.
I think they will.
So let's talk about specifically some of the successful DE&I and ESG initiatives you've run. Let's start with DE&I. One that comes to mind that you've run in your career that you're particularly proud of?
I'll go the most recent is organized celebration around Juneteenth. Juneteenth is hasn't necessarily historically been the most widely recognized, holiday. And
just for our international audience, I work for an American companies who recognise Juneteenth. Just explain what Juneteenth is for everyone.
So Juneteenth is kind of the recognition of when all the slaves were actually freed, but the formal proclamation happened, and the practice of free slaves never actually took place until years later. And so Juneteenth celebrates the day it actually occurred.
And it's a public holiday in the United States?
It is a public holiday in the United States.
Sorry, just to interject there, because some of the UK audience won't necessarily be familiar. So.
No, for sure. A company celebrated it in different ways.
Okay.
Last year, Backcountry celebrated it by kind of a day of service and day of giving. So our entire our entire corporate office was off, and it was meant to kind of volunteer and provide service to your local communities. And so, we have to be honest with ourselves. Backcountry is in our corporate headquarters is in Utah, which is not the most diverse state in the U.S. And so this year we very much centered around educate and celebrate.
Okay.
And so the big initiative was to at least educate the population about Juneteenth and what it was, why it's important, and why it matters to people. And we did that through a series of kind of, organically placed events. You never want to feel forced and have it be kind of a check the box type scenario. So we did anything from gear drives, where we donated the gear collected from our herd to local minority-based charities. We sent out a series of newsletters over the entire month of June, not just on Juneteenth. Weekly sent out newsletters to talk about different initiatives around the country, so people can understand, the importance and where the holiday came from. And the whole idea around all of the different, we had a silent auction, which is great for internal.
Yep.
I picked up a snowboard for on the cheap, but
Congrats.
thank you. But all the money also went to benefit like local minority-based charities. But the intention of the entire celebration was, and my hope was at the end of all of these things, that if I walked up to anyone in the hallway and asked them, what is Juneteenth, that they'd be able to articulate an answer. We did something that I thought was really cool. There's a mobile Black History Museum in Utah, if you believe it or not. And so we partnered with them. They drove on up to Park City and turned our entire cafe into a Black History Museum for a matter of a day, and the level of interest that everyone took in understanding and learning about Black history, not just as a whole, but as it relates to Utah and their current surrounding, was really impressive. And so I can honestly say I feel like we achieved the goal, because I did. I walked up to people in the halls weeks later and asked them, what's Juneteenth? And they knew. It was great. And now we can just build on that.
Yeah, and that's great. That's a really great example. Just for our viewers, in case you're listening, we're having a New York thunderstorm right now, but we're gonna plough on regardless. If it's not the sirens, it's the hammering rain.
It's always something.
It's a little warm in here. So wonderful DE&I initiative. What about an ESG initiative that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah. So, as I said, Backcountry is an e-commerce business primarily, so we sell thousands of brands, but we do have our own internal brands, private label brands. We call them a collective of owned brands, where it's Backcountry, Stoic, and Basin and Range.
Okay.
And so we have our internal designers, and we are very careful to make sure that we make smart choices. And so whether it's using found feathers for a down versus plucked feathers, or making sure that we make smart choices around the dye that we use to, even if it may be a little bit more on the pricey side than something that's more cost effective, but if the dye that we use is more environmentally friendly, long term, we make those smart choices organically to make sure that the product we deliver to a customer.
So do you have an ESG counterpart in product, or does the whole thing sit on your desk, Andrew? It's all with you.
The whole thing. I work with I work with obviously the entire company, all the different leaderships from the different teams and departments, but ultimately, we build a unified strategy.
That's very cool. So found down, and then other examples that come to mind?
Yeah, so I think, if we look at the third party side, we do try to partner with brands that are also more environmentally conscious.
Yes.
And even, like I said, we do sell thousands of brands. So even if we are giving an opportunity to a smaller company, it is one of the questions that we ask. And I think we have a responsibility as, someone who's giving an opportunity to a smaller company to influence them, especially positively influence them, especially if they learn to build it into their business model early days.
Yep.
It'll grow and flourish with their company.
I will only stand them in good stead, right? So that's absolutely. So the role of the employer brand, always includes important elements like DE&I and sustainability, but it's now front and center for candidates, right, when they make their choice. Absolutely front and center. What advice do you have for our viewers when creating messaging to attract candidates to take advantage of that?
The message has to be short and sweet, and direct and to the point.
It's a bit like that lightning strike.
Yeah. The things that matter to a company is evident to a prospective candidate just based on what they present and how they speak about it. I think transparency is key, and it has to feel organic and genuine.
Yeah.
And so if you...
There's always those words, isn't it? Genuine, honest, authentic. It's just so important. And it can't be faked, that.
It cannot. It can't be this nice curated message with, videos of actors and whatnot. People want to see kind of behind the scenes, kind of daily operation, and kind of true examples of how you embody the decisions that you kind of tote on your online portals.
And you're doing that. You're exposing the sort of inner workings of the firm to candidates.
Working on it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, better to be working on than not working on it. So
we are.
Yeah.
I've been here for 6.5 months now. It's a newly created role in its current structure.
Yes.
And so pulling all of our messaging and branding together is kind of an ongoing thing that we're in early days, but feeling really positive.
Very good. So who have been some of the most influential people that have inspired you, either professionally or personally, and what have you learned from them?
Jim Bierbauer used to be previously the CHRO, head of HR of Abercrombie and Fitch, and at the time I was very new to my kind of role in HR, and he took me under his wing and taught me, truly taught me concepts and valuable lessons in HR that I at the time lacked, and I still talk to him to this day.
Are you still using those concepts today, or have they changed?
100% use those concepts today, and tweaked along the way to adjust. The head of diversity and inclusion, he currently is at Carhartt, but used to be the chief diversity officer at Abercrombie as well. Todd Corley is a constant inspiration for me in my role and the work I do. He also just got named to the Diversity and Equity Commission for the Biden administration for the Department of Agriculture.
Yep.
And so I call these folks up and ask them questions very frequently, whether it's professional, due to my own personal career choices, or kind of some organizational challenges that I face. I kind of include them in what I call my board of directors. So I have a board of directors that's for my personal brand. I think of myself as an entity, as a company, and every company out there has a board of directors, and they offer a different perspective to the sitting executives, and similarly, I think of myself, because I need others to learn from others and other perspectives, that they may look at something differently. They've helped me quite a lot in some of the career choices I've made, and continue to this day.
I think that's fantastic. I think everybody should have their own personal board of directors.
I strongly recommend it.
No, I really like that.
It's a formalized process for me. I ask you officially if you will be, and I have quarterly check-ins with folks, and I tell them what's going on.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm fortunate that they care enough about me to oblige.
There's a whole other higher thinking episode just on that subject, by the way.
Oh, is there?
I really like that. No, I mean, I can create one now.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic.
My mind is whirring about how you take the principles of, running a business and just apply it to running yourself. Mm-hmm. And so much to explore there. We'll unpick that another day, though. I always like to end on the same question. The title of the video series is Higher Thinking. What's your one golden rule for successful talent acquisition?
The golden rule, I think I mentioned it earlier, it's hire character, train skill. You have to make sure that the person you hire matches your culture and value set, and of the company that you work for, because that individual ultimately will help to perpetuate said core values that makes the environment welcoming to others. And if you get that wrong, I think you're dead in the water.
I think you opened with higher character, train skill, and we'll close with it. Andrew, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure. That concludes episode 8 of Higher Thinking. And in a turn up for the books, it turns out it doesn't just rain in London. My thanks to Andrew Thompson for an absolutely fascinating conversation. A couple of things I took away from that. One, the focus he has on hiring character to train skill. And secondly, the thought about building your own personal board of directors to help you develop yourself as you go through your career. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.